Hi, my name is Hisham Saeed. I'm a faculty of construction management at Santa Clara University, and I'm presenting paper 75 in the ASC 2020 conference on behalf of also my research assistant here, Ajay. And the paper here is on data-driven assessment of market share growth factors of unionized electrical construction in the U.S. The construction unions have been a key players in the movement for worker rights and social justice movements. The first one established in 1881 for the carpenters. It has a long history for worker movement here, but recently, or not recently, over years, their market share or membership, their membership and the levels have been declining. And there are a few studies that try to investigate that. So in this paper here, we're trying to give some initial assessment of the factors that contribute to market share decline or growth in the U.S. electrical trade union in the construction industry, which is represented from the management side by NECA, National Electrical Contractors Association, and the labor side by International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, or IBEW. And we use this methodology here, so we went through exploration phase, understanding what's really the problem here, and trying to assess or identify some preliminary list of factors, and then we collected the data and then analyzed the data we have. So the exploration phase included some interviews and literature review and town hall meetings to be able to generate a list of hypothesized factors that we thought are potentially impacting the market share of electrical construction industry. So for more details about the description of each, please refer to the paper. And then we started collecting data to be able to represent all these factors and analyze them later. The first data source we consider is the union market share data, which is published by the National Labor Management Corporation Committee, which is a joint entity established by NECA and IBEW for market research. They published data for market share metric between 2004 and 2017. It covers 255 IBEW local unions. We did not use the data as it is. We developed, which you can refer to paper 74 in the conference. The procedure we used to develop the kind of build on that to end up with a trend metric, market share trend metric, not absolute metric here. So we were more interested into understanding or knowing which local unions had positive market share trend versus negative, and positive represents growing or rebounding, and negative represents going up and down or shrinking. This is a distribution of the locals here between these different trends, and also the geographic mapping of these local unions and represented by their jurisdiction lines. We also have an online survey. So we surveyed NECA executive, IBEW manager, and contractors using an online survey. We got 66 responses from this distribution here between different type of respondents. And these respondents came from 53 local unions. So kind of there is a repetition. Some of the respondents came from the same local unions. For the third data source here, we used interviews, kind of an additional data point to support the online survey we had. So it's additional assessment of the market share factors we identified in the exploration phase. And for the interviews, we had the sampling procedure to target the specific unions that we think will be representative of the overall landscape we have. So the first one is we try to understand the local socioeconomic conditions of the locals from data from the federal census sources, and then we applied principal component analysis to shrink these number of factors from 20 to only 5, and this is what the 5 factors we ended up with from the PCA analysis. And then we use these principal factors to cluster the unions, the local unions, into 7 clusters. And then from each cluster, we try to target and, of course, on voluntary basis, try to approach different chapters and locals to be involved in interviews. And we ended up with 21 interviews that kind of span, again, it's a sampling procedure. We're trying to represent the different conditions of the locals and the data we have. So we ended up with 21 interviews here, and this is distribution of them over and representation of the different, the 7 clusters we have. Then we used the data we have and did analyze now for every one of the 8 hypothesized factors for market share, union market share. And for the detailed discussion, please refer to the paper. Here we'll just introduce a couple of them. So the first one is low voltage. So low voltage is a new market, is related to the movement of smart buildings and automation in buildings. And we have seen that growing unions have invested more into the training programs, which we call the tech installer program here. So they have more expansion into this market, low voltage market, compared to shrinking or unions with negative trends. PLAs, or project labor agreements, it's an interesting finding here that we found that not most of the local unions that we have represented in the data did not have any experience with PLA or dependency on PLA. And even for those who are dependent on PLAs are mostly here locals that have showed negative market share trends. So it's kind of it's not a healthy thing to depend on PLAs. It's actually an indication of your market share is growing, and then you're using your political leverage as a worker movement or union to require PLAs in public projects. So it's not a natural way of growing market share for unions. It's kind of a last resort kind of action for unions who have seen decline in their market share. CECWs, or construction workers or construction electricians, it's different worker classification that doesn't have the full benefits compared to like wireman, foreman, or residential foreman, that the typical classification within IBEW. So it's a way to increase the membership, but kind of not with the full load of benefits. And the CWCEs come with lower pay rates because they don't get the full benefits. And we found here that it's kind of this middle ground kind of classification helps a lot in growing the market share of some locals. So growing locals here that showed positive trend had on average CECW representation in their membership up to 25%. Compared to the negative trend here, they had only like 3%. So increasing the dependency on CECWs allowed them to lower the composite crew cost rate for electricians, and that made them more competitive, and that increased the market share. So the hypothesis that CECWs actually improve the market share of unions was one of the key findings here that we saw in the study. Other things that we also did in the study is data visualization. So we used an online data visualization platform, Tableau, to be able to publish the data in a more accessible way. And I'll be happy to share the link for that if you email me. You can find the email from my homepage on the Santa Clara University. So there are different visualizations here that gives you different perspectives of the data we collected. And I would like here to acknowledge also the financial support we got from Electri International, the funding organization for this study, and also the support we got from NICA and IBEW to collect the data. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the paper here, and I will be happy to answer any questions by email. Thank you.